as people, people will join us as their schools let out and stuff. Okay, so welcome everyone. I am Tangi Barlow. I'm a biology, anatomy physiology teacher here at Knight High School. And today we're going to be talking about healthy living and gardening. There's really great reasons why we should be discussing these types of things with our students and just with each other, and just being more open about just healthy living, because there's just so much importance to it. So that's why I was really excited to be able to take on this topic today. So let's just kind of get moving here. Hang on one second. I haven't done virtual in a while. I got to make sure I remember where all the
Gotta get them skills tight.
where all the stuff is
Mm-hmm.
at. Okay, so this is what today's agenda looks like. We're going to look at the foods that we eat, and look at the foods we eat. Look, I already have a typo. I went through this thing so many times too. I'm never going to catch them all. So we're going to look at what we eat, why we eat it, and what the results are. Okay. And then our goal is to look at next steps. So like things that we can do to be better, to do better. And some of that even about growing some of our own food, not just for health, but honestly for fun and for just like a sense of satisfaction. There's a lot of positive things that go with gardening. Okay. So that's pretty much what our goal is going to be today. Okay. So definitely want to be super casual. So feel comfortable just like using the chat, unmuting your mic, asking questions, adding comments. I'm like a super chill presenter. I don't like to just sit here and talk the whole time. So anytime, chime in, because I want that. Don't worry if it looks like you're interrupting me. But I do have some questions in here. I'm hoping that we can, kind of chime in on to get the conversation started. So the first question really is like, how would you describe health? How would you describe a healthy body? So anybody want to chime in?
Well, I'll start. Health to me would be the full function of all your limbs, right? And
Mm-hmm.
being able to be mobile and have the use of your arms and legs and digits and eyes and ears and all your functions and faculties. Health could also include maintaining a healthy body weight, right? Being in shape is one thing, but a healthy body weight is kind of something a little different. You kind of tone up what you have or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of being aware of what you put in as you age, kind of like Mr. Graybeard over here. You have to kind of change your eating habits a little bit and kind of push away from certain things, and so that's kind of what health is to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Did anybody want to add anything? No pressure, but
Not to add anything, but I agree with Mr. Patterson. Health, I believe that health doesn't necessarily look a certain way. It's honestly if you can still move your body correctly and so on. Because everybody, everybody is a different height and have different body shapes. So my healthy might not look the same healthy as somebody else.
absolutely. I'm so glad to hear both of you say that, because it really is true. Healthy bodies come in all shapes and sizes, and you cannot judge how healthy somebody is or how healthy you are based on just what you see on the outside. We do want to maintain reasonable, healthy weights, meaning that we're not just, obese, but just having a little bit of extra weight or extra pounds or being taller or shorter or, shaped a certain way, that's not necessarily what health is. So good. I'm really glad to hear those comments. So why is health so important? So some of these things were actually mentioned in the intro from Mr. Patterson. Did you want to jump in there with something, Shalala or Miss Hutchinson?
Uh, no, I'm just listening,
Okay, no
and
problem.
I'm good. I'm
Okay, no
I'm
problem.
I'm in. I'm just listening.
Yeah, that's fine. Sometimes if I see your little mics, I, try to make sure I'm giving everybody a chance to talk. So no worries. But some of the great things that were already mentioned, honestly, why is health so important? Longevity. I mean, I was definitely expecting like a lot more students in our presentation. And I know with teenagers, sometimes it's like you feel healthy because, you're younger, you can jump, you can run, you've got energy. But when you're really thinking about health, you want to think for the long haul. You want to think like, what is your life going to be like when you are 60 and 70 and 80? Health is absolutely your greatest wealth. That couldn't be said better. Okay. Absolutely. And you want to live pain free as long as possible, because if you know anybody who suffers from, various illnesses that we're going to talk about, sometimes there's pain that's associated with them, and getting older already hurts. Like, I'm not that old, but when I fall, I stay down there for a minute. It does not feel good. So the more, I mean, just even having mobility, use of your joints, balance, those types of things are just so important. And it really does give you freedom in your older age. So you can travel, you can hold your grandkids, play with them, all that good stuff. Be available to support your family, and not being a slave to medications. Medications are not bad. I'm not anti-medication. That's not what this is about. But you don't want to have to be a slave to them. You don't want to have to be on blood pressure medication, and if you can avoid it. Some things can't be avoided, but you're going to do the best you can to try, and that's what it's really all about. Because, slavery per se may not exist in the ways that it did in the past, but there are many ways that we end up being slaves to things and we don't even realize it. Chevelle, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, just catching back on health being your greatest wealth. You don't want to spend all your health, your youthful years trying to gain wealth, and then when you get the wealth, spend all your wealth trying to gain health.
Oh my gosh, girl, say it louder for the people in the back, because that is just couldn't be said better, and that is so, so true. That's just true. Okay. You want to pay attention to it early on. That's all the point is. Pay attention early on, save money on medical expenses and just your peace of mind. Okay. Now look, everything is not in our control. All right. So look, we can eat well, we can exercise, we can do everything that we're supposed to do. And that doesn't, things happen. So, that's how it goes. Some of this is luck, but we can influence. And that's what we're talking about today. Okay. And as Gandhi said, it is health that is the real wealth, as Mitch Hutchinson said as well. Okay. It's not money. It's not, all of that, but you really want that. So anyways, we were going to do a Padlet, but there's only a few of us here right now. So we can just maybe toss out some of these foods. What does a healthy meal look like? Or not healthy, sorry, holiday. What does a holiday meal look like for your family? Like, what are some foods? Because we all know we like to throw down. Thanksgiving is coming, Christmas is coming, barbecue, 4th of July, you know how that goes. So what are some holiday, I keep saying healthy, what do holiday meals look like for your family?
A lot of starches.
Oh, a lot of starches. Yes.
We got potatoes, we got rice, we got bread, we got pasta, we got meat, we got, there's a few vegetables there, but they may have been doctored up as such. The green beans got a little something in there, whatever. So it may not be the most
healthy looking.
Yeah, little
which
heavy
is
with the
okay.
seasoning.
Which is okay, because I asked for a holiday meal, so we don't eat holiday meals every day, so that's okay. The thing about holidays too is we just throw caution to the wind. It's like 3 different types of meat, like turkey and ham and pot roast or whatever type of roast you have, and then tons of starches. And then, of course there's collards show up, collard greens will show up and stuff. Last 6 months, yours have been vegetable heavy, hardly any starches. Okay, that's good. That's really good. I'm glad to hear that. My holiday meals actually look different than most because I don't eat meat, but this is not about like, not eating meat, because you can definitely still have meat as part of a healthy diet. So that's not what this is about. But I just mentioned because Chevelle, I saw your comment and I'm like, yeah, our meals actually look very different now. But the typical meal is, looks kind of like soul food, So real quick, I just want to talk about a little bit about why our foods, why we choose the foods that we choose, and then the history of how soul food came to be. Okay. So soul food is one of the most popular and recognizable types of food, types of cooking that we have in the United States. Everybody loves their good fried chicken. Everybody loves, macaroni and cheese, collard greens. You got to have those. And it almost doesn't even matter what nationality you are or what ethnic, background you come from. Everybody loves a good soul food, from time to time. It originates pretty much from the South, and the staples of soul food are going to be rice, greens, okra, and pork pieces. And then there's something I wanted to tell you. I made a little note. Okay, so hey, this is our BSU, so we need to make sure we're getting our history in this, okay? So some things that we should know where this came from. So during the transatlantic slave trade, enslaved African people were given very small, menial food rations, and they were low in quality and they were low in nutritional value. It's basically the food that the white people didn't want for themselves, okay? And they were like, these are leftovers. That's why else would anybody eat chitlins? Okay, nobody's going to voluntarily be like, give me, what cut do you want? Oh, God, I want the intestines. Like, that's not about to happen. Okay, that's not going to happen. It might happen today with some of your maybe older folks and people who are just more used to that, having it's been passed down. But really think about it. When you look at the cuts of meat that we have, ham hocks, neck bones, who's going to volunteer for the neck bone? Like, okay, what piece of meat did you want? I'm going to take the neck bone. There's hardly any meat in the neck bone. These are just the bare minimum that they threw at the slaves, okay? So anyways, over time, so what ended up happening is the enslaved people preserved their African food traditions because they knew how to cook from when they were back in Africa. So they took these little meager pieces of meats and their starches, and they tried to do whatever they could to add their touch to it, add their seasonings, add their flavors, and make it taste good, because they had to make it palatable so that they could consume it. They knew it wasn't necessarily healthy, but they're looking at survival, okay? There's a difference between health and survival. They're trying to survive, okay? So over time, these recipes and techniques have become our soul food dishes that we're familiar with today, okay? And then, of course, now we aren't necessarily, we're not tossed those cuts of meat, but we still choose to use a lot of them as seasonings for our food and just out of like traditional habits, okay? So that's pretty much like how soul food came to be. However, think about it this way, though. If they were presented with the opportunity at that time to have healthier cuts of meat, to have healthier options, to have more vegetables, they would have surely chosen options that were healthier for them, because it makes you feel better. Like when you eat better, you feel better. Okay. And so those options were out of necessity, not necessarily out of choice. Okay. Did I miss anything? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, definitely heavy seasonings to mask poor taste and quality. Some of those meats were barely even in their prime. Okay. Like, how we go in our refrigerator, we're like, we want to keep this or not keep this. Some of these things are barely in their prime. So there's a lot of heavy seasonings and things like that. And then over time, this soul food has evolved. Hi, Ms. Dawes. Welcome. Over time, the soul food has evolved when we've added heavy sauces, butters, and a lot of frying. Okay, lots of frying. So, you can see up here, some ham hocks, and they had to cook under difficult conditions as well. Okay. All right. So here's a good old plate of food. Don't get too hungry. Okay. We're not going to eat in this presentation. That would have been nice, though. It would have been nice to put together some dishes. Oh, okay. She's having audio problems. Maybe I know she can't hear me, but if somebody wants to type to her, maybe sometimes when that happens to me, if I leave the meet and come back, it fixes itself. So, anyways, all right. Which food groups do you see on this plate? Anybody want to jump in? What food groups do we see?
Uh, food groups. I see meat. Or
Yeah,
we
we got
talk.
it. Mhm.
Okay, I see meat. I see a vegetable.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
we got kind of got two there, right?
okay. I didn't know where we stood on the yam. I guess yam technically.
The yam
Uh,
started out as a vegetable.
okay. All right. And then some pasta.
Yeah, yeah, we got our carbohydrates over here, our cornbread and our mac and cheese, you know. So this is a good, nice kind of soul food plate we got going here. Dang, those
Yeah,
candy
those
yams.
yams look like those nasty canned princessa yams.
I'm not gonna lie, they do. This is not a plate from my house.
They
my
look like
my yams would be cut way different. But nonetheless, okay, so look at our food groups, okay? So we do have some vegetables on here, but as Mr. Patterson already pointed out, are we even going to call them vegetables? Because our candied yams are pretty much smothered in sugar and butter. Our collard greens, you know, the way they look on this plate actually don't look too bad, but we already know a lot of salt's going to be added to those. We're going to add some neck bones to them. You know, we're going to add some things like that. And, you know, we're going to make those up and they're not going to be as healthy anymore, you know? So that's the situation there. So let's look at our nutrients. Okay. We already know we've got fats, proteins, minerals, water. Our roughage would be our fiber, vitamins, carbohydrates. These are things that we need to get from our foods. However, sometimes the way we cook them, we make it so that the minerals and the vitamins are not as available to us. The roughage, which would be our fiber, sometimes we break that down so much it's not really serving our purpose. And then we tend to overdo it sometimes on proteins, meats, and things like that. Carbohydrates, there's good carbs and not so good carbs. And so we just have to pay attention to those guys as well. The good news, though, is there's a way to make pretty much all, I want to say almost all foods that you like in healthy ways, you know? So, you know, you can do that as well. So we don't eat soul food daily. At least I don't think in California we do. Now, if you're from the South or your spouse is from the South or your mom or dad's from the South, then maybe you're making soul food on a regular basis. But we don't eat soul food every day. So what are some of the things that we do eat that are on a regular basis? Maybe I know one of my favorites, one of my hard ones is French fries. I tend to throw down on some French fries. I can't say no to them. It's just hard. It's like one of my favorite foods. Ice cream is another one. Anybody else have any you want to throw out there? Hi, Tatiana. Welcome. And Miss Dawes, I hope that was able to fix your audio. Sometimes that works for me.
Hamburgers and hot dogs
Oh,
to
yes.
go with those French fries.
Yes, yes. See, me, I ditched the hamburger just because I just want the fries, man. But yes, they have partners, the hamburger and the fries, and even like hot links, you know, if you get a good barbecue going or something. But that's not every day. That's not every day, I hope, you know. Chips, yeah, definitely chips. Oh yeah, and one thing is, you know, oops, sorry. Definitely chips. Hello. We're very casual, so feel free to jump in anytime. Don't, you know, we're very chill in this presentation. But anyways, lots of processed foods. American and the standard American diet tends to be very heavily processed. Okay. So here are the results of the standard American diet. And this is why we need to talk about this. Okay. Because in the standard American diet, everybody is affected. However, African Americans are more heavily affected. It really affects our longevity, and then it really affects our quality of life while we're here. The statistics are horrible. I actually weeded out a lot of statistics just to keep within, like, you know, keep it reasonable, but the statistics are terrible. So one is life expectancy. I mean, African-American women, 79.8 years, where African-American males, 74 years. Females always have a longer life expectancy than males do. So you see that across the board, no matter who you're looking at. Non-Hispanic whites, they're looking at 82.7 years. and 78.4 years. So they're automatically having a longer life expectancy than African Americans. Okay. And then looking at insurance, 10.6% of the population of African Americans is uninsured, whereas 5.9% of the population of non-Hispanic whites would be uninsured. This matters. What this really means is we have to take care of ourselves, okay? Because we can't expect somebody else to be able to do it. And a lot of us may not even have insurance. Now, some do, and obviously most do, 10.6%. That's a small part of the population. But when you compare that percent that's uninsured to non-Hispanic whites, that's a pretty big difference. That means that if you do get sick, can you even go and get service, okay? 13.8% of African Americans have reported having poor health, whereas only 8.3% of non-Hispanic whites report having poor health. And that just really comes from how you feel and if you have any actual problems. By the way, all of these stats came from the CDC. I took them straight from the CDC website, and I also took some stats from the American Heart Association also. So just so you know where I got the stats from. This is a really big one, this very last one. Adults over the age of 20 that suffer from hypertension. First of all, 20 years old, that is really young, okay? So adults over the age of 20 that suffer from hypertension. If you're not familiar with hypertension, that is high blood pressure, okay? So you have 40% of African Americans suffering from hypertension, where you only have 28.7% of non-Hispanic whites. Okay, that is a huge jump. And the reason why this is such a problem is hypertension leads to many other diseases or illnesses. So we're talking heart disease, kidney failure is one. I mean, and honestly, this conversation is not even an easy one for me because I've lost so many family members due to hypertension, including my dad when I was a teenager. Okay, and he was really young at the time, but it stemmed from his history with food. And so it's really a tough one to see us have such a high number, 42%. That's a lot. So this is why we should care, and this is why we should try, and not just that, but support each other at the same time. Okay, we want to support each other at the same time. So anyways, those results are kind of scary. I have a little video clip, but I think I might skip it and maybe I'll come back to it at the end. I told myself not to forget. That's why I stuck it in there. But here are some other stats. I didn't want to overwhelm you with stats, but I did want to just show you that it's not just like an American thing, but it really is something that we need to focus on in the Black community because it's affecting us the most harsh. Okay, so African American women are 60% more likely to have high blood pressure than non-Hispanic whites. African American men are 60% more likely to have liver and IBD cancer than non-Hispanic white men. And 4 out of 5 African American women are overweight or obese. Now, when it comes to weight, sometimes, okay, I went to they do the health, what do you call those? They come and they take our health screening. So I did my health screening yesterday, and technically, according to that, I'm overweight. And so, I work out all the time, but I'm technically considered overweight. So, when it says 4 out of 5, their standards for being overweight are pretty much on the low side. But I didn't take too much with it. But, obesity is definitely still an issue. So my point is the conversation we're having today is not necessarily about weight, but weight is a part of your health. Okay. Incidence of colorectal cancer mortality among African Americans is 20% higher than white Americans. Okay. And African American adults are 60% more likely than non-Hispanic whites to have been diagnosed with diabetes. Okay. Which is another one that's like a lead into other illnesses. Okay. Which is why that matters so much. And then here are just some other stats so you can see as we're comparing with age ranges. African Americans are in the dark maroon color, and whites are in the light blue color. So you see across the board, we really are, diabetes is kind of getting everybody age 18 to 35. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. The stat here is low as it is. I just mean there's not a big difference there as far as African American compared to white. But as you can see in the rest of these are pretty huge differences. And probably you know someone that has high blood pressure or diabetes or have had a stroke or have had a combination of any of these. Okay, because I can rattle off at least 5 or 6 family members that fit these first two categories, not necessarily the last one. Okay.
Well, you're looking at a stroke survivor right here.
See, okay.
2 years ago, uh, my life turned, and that was partly because of what she's saying. Our diet was okay, but it wasn't the best, and we wasn't necessarily doing the things that we should have did in regards to our health, and it cost me big time. It almost cost me my life. Now, I was very fortunate and lucky that my stroke wasn't a severe one, as I guess as it does. I've been able to regain a sense of mobility and use of limb. That there is an ability to walk, even though it's not quite what it was, things of that nature. And so the things that she's saying, young people, are definitely something that you should take to heart. And even for my veteran adults on the call, you know what I'm saying? We have to be diligent and modeling these things for our young people, right? And so
Absolutely.
it's part of the thing that has given me the desire and the strength to be a part of this BSU Leadership Council. This kind of stems from that misfortune in my life to kind of turn it into a positive. So I'm very thankful for the information today.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I'm a Survivor by Beyonce. I play that sometimes after on test days for my students too. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me let somebody in. But no, I appreciate you sharing that because, we don't have to be perfect. I'm definitely not going to be going through this saying like, you need to eat this, and this, and do all these things, because it doesn't require perfection, but it does require being aware, being conscious, making good decisions more often than not. And then, of course, hey, I still eat my French fries. I'm always going to eat my French fries. That's my all-time favorite food, and it's not going anywhere. But I can't eat them every day like I would like to. Okay, so anyway, so I'm going to kind of move on a little bit. I don't want to hammer you with too many statistics. If you're not familiar with the term standard American diet, it's a diet that's rich in red meats and dairy products, processed and artificially sweetened foods with minimal intake of fruits, vegetables, beans, and whole grains. So that's what the standard American diet is. It consists of a lot of fats. It consists of a lot of salt, a lot of sugar, definitely heavy on animal products. If you look at a plate, that's for the standard American diet. Vegetables play a very small role in that, just like we saw even with the little thing of collard greens on the soul food plate, or like we talked about holiday meals. The green beans will show up, but they're going to be slathered in butter, with all types of stuff. Some people even will put cheese, they're going to slather. We'll have our veggies, but we're going to add all that dairy on top of it. And to be honest, dairy can be very, very problematic in the diet. So don't be scared, though. Be prepared. This is not like something so you run out of here and make a giant change and you're like, oh, don't run home. Those of you that are students, don't run home and tell your parents what you're not about to eat anymore. Don't go throwing out the food in your cabinet, because that's not what this is all about. It's about being prepared, being aware, and making some better choices. And I'm a big proponent of making small changes as opposed to making big changes. Making small changes and sticking to them and being consistent than just all of a sudden waking up and you're going to do something big and drastic, because that's not your habit. You're going to have a hard time sticking to it, and then you're going to end up going back the other way. Okay. And so I'm a big proponent of small changes. Okay. So we're going to go through this kind of a little bit fast, but so then what do you think is the number one cause of death in the United States? So we've got cancer as an option. We have heart disease. We have diabetes. We have athlete's foot in there. So what do you think? You can either put in the chat. You can say out loud, whatever you want.
Heart disease.
Okay, so we got heart disease, we got B, heart disease, we have cancer, we have diabetes. Okay. All right, nobody picked athlete's foot. Okay, we have heart disease again. All right, so those of you that said heart disease, you have it. Although cancer is pretty closely behind, but definitely heart disease is the number one cause of death. Now, keep in mind, heart disease is the number one cause of death, but there are so many surgeries. I didn't even put a statistic in here with how many people have to get bypass surgery per day. Okay. And then not just one bypass, but triple bypass, quadruple bypass. So even with us healing them with medicine, it's still the number one killer cause of death in the United States. Okay. So that's huge. If you're not aware of what heart disease is, it's basically includes heart attacks and any type of cardiovascular disease is very similar, like heart disease or something that causes a stroke. So you get a blocked artery in your vessel, in your coronary artery inside of your heart. And if you block one, then you get damage further down. But oftentimes, not just one gets blocked, but multiples. So when people get triple bypass surgery, they actually have 3 blocked arteries in their heart, and they have to go through and clear those and bypass them with another vessel. Sometimes it's quadruple bypass. Okay, so that's what heart disease is if you're not familiar. And then this is what your artery should look like. And then you can get a buildup of plaque deposits. And it actually does it. This kind of picture, you can see the lining there. You can see the inner lining right here. This plaque builds up in the wall of the artery. It becomes more narrow, and it causes your blood pressure to increase. Your blood pressure is how much force the blood puts on the vessel wall. So if you narrow this area, you're going to get a higher blood pressure, and eventually the wall of this vessel can become weak. It can bust, which is unlikely because it's a thick wall, but if there's enough damage, it can, or it can become completely blocked, which is how you get a stroke if it happens in the brain, or if it happens in the heart, then you get a heart attack. Then you have a heart attack. Okay, so that's kind of the gist of it. So what we eat contributes to this plaque buildup. Okay, so it doesn't just come out of nowhere. It doesn't happen overnight, and it happens over a long period of time. And that's why we want to talk to our young people about what you eat, because it's not like, you turned 40 and all of a sudden you're going to build up this plaque. This is something that happens over the course of your lifetime. Okay. It's not something you have to be scared about and worried about, but it's just something you want to be conscious of so that you can make healthy choices. Doesn't mean you can't eat some of your favorite foods. It just means that you don't want to overdo it and you want to have moderation. Okay. Plaque is made up of fat, cholesterol, calcium, and other substances that are going to be found in your blood. Eventually, it hardens and makes your arteries more narrow. So fats are not bad, because sometimes the word fat gets a bad name. Like everybody, will buy non-fat dressings. We're like, we're going to be healthy, and we're just going to go to the store and we just buy all the stuff that says non-fat. Well, that's not necessarily healthy either, okay? But you want to just focus on what types of fats you have. So meats tend to have some of the worst fats for you. These are the ones that really clog your arteries. If you look at the healthiest communities, they actually have the lowest amount of meat consumption. They will have meats, but they'll have them as almost like a little side or like a little seasoning. So they'll take like one piece of meat and cut it up a bunch into pieces, and it seasons the whole dish, as opposed to everybody getting their own chunk on their plate. Okay, so that's kind of a difference. Pastries and cookies, who doesn't love their sugar, man? But you got to keep it in moderation. Dairy products and eggs also can be problematic if you're having them too much. And fried foods. It's hard. If you fry anything, that's where we mess up our vegetables. We take a perfectly good potato and we just fry the mess out of that thing. But you add some salt to it and, can't help it. It tastes good. But here's some fats that are not so bad for you. Olive oils and nuts, avocado seeds. You can still get fats in your diet, but maybe just in different ways. Okay. And then just something to keep in mind that a lot of people don't know is that a lot of the meats that we consumed are actually classified as group 1 carcinogens. Okay. And a carcinogen is something that is known to cause cancer. All right. So it's amazing because most of the time, if something's a group 1 carcinogen, the government tells there's warning labels on it and they tell people don't have it. But meat is like one of the things that we won't do that to because there's a whole industry that has a lot of money involved with it. And so we're not about to do that. But processed meats like bacons and salamis, anything that wasn't cut straight off the animal that way is as a group 1 carcinogen. Okay. And then others, red meats like beef, lamb, pork is not technically a red meat. I mean, they kind of like keep moving it between red and white, but it's still classified as a group 2. So in other words, I'm not saying don't have it. I'm just saying be aware and maybe have less. Okay. Maybe be aware and maybe have less. Okay. So plants are known as healers. They're known as medicine, okay? Not medicine in the sense like you go to the doctor and you have a problem and you decide to just have some plants. I'm not telling you to do that, okay? There are people that do that, but that's not what I'm saying today. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not giving any kind of that kind of advice, okay? But they are known to have healing properties. Go ahead, Ms. Hutchinson.
Okay, I had on here, but maybe you could. I made a mistake. When I said diabetes causes heart disease, I think I should have said it contributes to heart disease.
Yeah, it definitely can contribute to heart disease because the reason why is because type 2 diabetes, one of the ways that you get it is too much fat in your diet, too much animal fats from your dairy products and your meat products. And so what happens is if you can picture your cells, and I don't think I have the picture in this presentation, but I'm going to go back a second because maybe I can use this. So this is a vessel, but if you can just picture it as a row of cells, the fat will literally build up on the surface. And so the sugar cannot get into the cells. So your cells are literally starving, which is what diabetes is. Your cells are starving of the nutrients. You have plenty of it. You just can't get it into the cell. So if you have a buildup of fat here, and then that sugar can't get inside, it's going to contribute to the plaque buildup. That's going to lead to the heart disease, like Ms. Hutchinson is saying. So yes, that's a very good point. I hope that makes sense because I didn't exactly have the right picture to explain that. Okay, let me move on. We all know cancer comes in so many different ways. It's not just what you eat. So much of your environment can have an influence on that. Some of it has to do with your genetics, and if you're more predisposed to getting it. Some does have to do with how we feed our bodies. Cancer feeds on sugar. So when we give our bodies excessive amounts of sugar, if you were to have a cancer, it would grow faster and be more problematic, but it doesn't necessarily cause cancer unless you're looking at those carcinogens I was telling you about. But whole fruits and vegetables and beans and legumes and things like that are known for helping reverse some of the damage that we have talked about. Fiber is something that we really want to get a lot of in your diet because it, one, adds bulk to your diet so you feel full longer and you have less cravings, which makes you not feel like you need to eat as often. It also helps clean your colon, which is going to limit your chances of getting colorectal cancer. So it will decrease the odds of polyps building up in your colon. Dairy and meat products have the opposite effect as they tend to stick to the colon. So you coat your colon with these products and then, with the digestive version of these products, and then that increases the odds that you'll develop a cancer there as your cells can't slough off daily like they're supposed to. But fiber you can think of as almost like a toothbrush for your colon. So I tell my students, sorry, I have a fruit fly in here. So that's why I tell my students, when we're talking about the digestive system, I'm like, don't forget to brush your colon today, because really what I mean is have some celery, have something high in fiber, because as it goes through your system, it's going to act like a brush and brush away all of that like more sticky foods that you ate when you had your animal products. So if you do anything, if you make any changes after today, the change you want to make is to include more fiber in your diet. Just by doing that alone, you're going to see improvements in your overall health. Don't do it too much at one time. If you're not used to having a lot of fiber, don't go crazy, because you will give yourself a very bad stomach ache, and it will be hard. It'll be hard on you. Let's just put it that way. Okay. So, you do want to add fiber, but don't go home and eat a whole thing of celery, because if you do that, you're going to regret it. And then you're going to be like, oh, Miss Barlow lied to us. I had fiber and I felt the worst I've ever felt. Well, yeah, that's going to happen. Slowly start to incorporate more fruits and veggies, whole fruits and veggies, not fruit juices, because fruit juices do not have the fiber in them. There's just the sugar. Okay. So anyways, I'm going to kind of move on from that. And then some things to look at, just whole foods really is all you really need to remember. Like if you eat a food pretty much the way that it was grown, or even with meats, like if you want meat, if you have it pretty much in its whole state, so instead of grinding it up and adding a whole bunch of other stuff to it and having it as a hot dog or something, you'll already be making healthier choices just by doing that. Okay. And then the refined foods, these are the ones that give you sugar spikes and crashes. They are the ones that contribute to diabetes in the long run. They definitely have like more sugar in them. Because they have added sugars, okay? And then a lot of the fiber has been removed from these foods, so that makes them not as healthy for you. It's hard though, because I'm not gonna lie, like I'm telling you this, but even when I was making this presentation, I had to remind myself of things, because I like my carbs just like everyone else. Just like I already told you, my favorite food is French fries. So I have to remind myself and use moderation. And then what happens is we get really busy. And when we go home, if I go home right now and I see this in my refrigerator, or I see this in my refrigerator or cabinet, I'm going to probably go for this because I can grab it and eat it really fast. I can grab this and eat it really fast as well. But usually these types of foods, I'm going to want to prepare them. I'm going to want to do something with them. So having a plan helps a lot, because if you just buy these vegetables like this and put them in your refrigerator, and then you also have this in your refrigerator or cabinet, when you're really hungry, you're not going to want to take the time to prepare this. So having stuff already cut up or steamed, or, just having a plan of what you want to do helps a lot. Okay, definitely helps a lot. This is a slide I was looking for before. As far as the top 10 causes of death in 2020, the causes actually changed recently because of COVID-19. As you can see, it's in there as the third. But even with the pandemic and COVID-19, it was still beat out by heart disease and cancer. So if you look at that, that's kind of crazy if you think about it. But anyways. So, just try to stick to your whole foods the best you can. And if you're really making an effort, say right now you're like, dang, I don't even eat my veggies. I don't like them. I don't eat them. I think everybody likes fruits, but if you don't eat a lot of fruit, maybe just make a goal of starting to add one each day, or one at each meal, or something as simple as like having a salad before you eat your meal could make a big difference. So if you're like, oh, I still want my hamburger, I still want, whatever, my fried chicken, which I don't exactly recommend, but we still love those things, because food is not just about what we want, but it's like habit and it's cultural. It's just like, it's our grandma's food, it's our mom and dad, it's our mom's food. So we have a sentimental like value in that. So if you want to still have those, that's all good, but try to have like a salad first. You'll eat less of that stuff. Oh, kale and collards, absolutely. I love my kale. I know kale gets a bad rap, but if you know how to make it, it's actually really good. And you don't have to slather it in dairy to make it taste good. So this picture here just shows like the whole foods on their own, but this picture shows a lot of different things that you can do with them. You can even make mac and cheese out of plants. Okay, it sounds crazy and you're like, how do you do that? Once you start looking at plant-based foods, you'll see there's a whole world of food that you didn't even know anything about. You know, you can take a cashew and turn that into the creamiest sauce ever and make a killer mac and cheese with it. And it doesn't actually take that long to do once you learn how to do it. In the beginning, you're starting something new that you've never done before. So it's going to take you more time. You're going to need recipes and stuff like that. Because if I want to make something I learned how to make as a kid, I can just go in the kitchen and make it. But if I want to kind of start like learning a new way of cooking, a new way of doing stuff, I'm going to have to put in some time. So that's where people get frustrated. But don't do too much too fast. Maybe do one meal a week where it's going to be heavily veggie based. And if you have to have a little side of chicken to throw on top of that, then have a little side chicken to throw on top of that. But you're already doing better than you were doing before, because this isn't slathered with milk and cheese, but instead you've made your own cheese sauce using plant-based materials. Okay, so that's just my point. You can make anything that you want, even sandwiches that look like this you can make. Be careful though, because I am recommending eating whole foods and not just plant-based junk food, because now that plant-based foods are becoming more common, companies got to make their money, and you're seeing a lot of Impossible burgers, and you're seeing a lot of stuff like that flood the market. And a lot of that is not necessarily healthy. It is plant-based, but that doesn't make it healthy. It just makes it, it's just another form of processed junk, just doesn't contain animal products. So I'm not saying don't eat it. I'm just saying be careful what you reach for. Okay. I hope that makes sense. One complaint that you hear all the time is that healthy foods cost too much money. And I totally get that. Like if you're trying to feed a whole family, you need to stretch your money. So oftentimes we'll see that we can get a 99-cent burger, or we can spend $5 for this salad. And this salad is not even going to keep you full. I can't say this burger is going to keep you that full either, but it'll give you more pleasure in the beginning and make you feel full. Okay. And then of course, fries, although I think these prices are a little outdated. These are pre-COVID prices, because I don't think you're going to get any fries today for $1, but I could be wrong. And then, cut up fruit and stuff. But a lot of this has to do with the preparation. Since the salad is pre-prepared for you in this plastic container, is going to cost you more. But if you just buy the lettuce, you buy the tomato, and you cut it up yourself, then it doesn't cost as much. The same with this fruit. You can get a watermelon, or you can get a cantaloupe, and it's not going to cost you as much, but you got to cut it yourself. So that's the trade-off. Okay. Is it really more expensive? Not necessarily. The reason why junk food is so inexpensive is because the government actually subsidizes it, which is a whole nother conversation. But basically, the government takes our tax money and pays it to the dairy industry and the meat industry so that they can produce their products at a lower cost. But why would they do that? Because they don't do that for this bag over here is not going to be subsidized. But if you have burgers from McDonald's, they can sell them for so cheap because a lot of it is subsidized, and then they add a lot of stuff to bulk up their product so that they can sell more of it for less money, making it even less healthy. Okay, so why do they do that? Well, if you think about it, the same people that subsidize those products are making money off of pharmaceuticals later. So they're almost paying to kind of keep you eating unhealthy. But it makes people happy because they can buy less expensive food. Okay, and I'm not anti-government, I'm no conspiracy, anything like that. But that's just, if you follow the dollars, that's where they go. Okay, so oftentimes we look at a meal like this and we're like, okay, well, today, man, I was at a fast food place, I don't know, a month or so ago, getting something for somebody, and I couldn't believe the prices. You used to be able to get burger and fries for $5, and it was $11 or $12 to get anything. So now I feel like, people will start to see that actually cooking at home is less money, but you can get a whole family meal, and it might be convenient, because a lot of times we go for convenience, which, hello, we're at work all day. I'm not going to leave here till almost 5. So I'm going to be looking for something convenient. But if I plan ahead and I already have my beans and rice, and I have my seasonings, or, and I make stuff myself, or you have your chicken that you're going to bake, toss in the oven with your potatoes, you can actually eat for less money eating plant-based. Okay. Or eating mostly plant-based. that's possible too. Okay. So it's not as simple as it looks. We are going to spend time, energy. We got to plan. We got to shop. It's not easy, but it's so much easier when you're younger to like lay the foundation so you can have the freedom when you're older. Okay. All right. And then keep in mind, make smaller changes, nothing drastic. You want to trade foods that are bad for you with some that are better for you. So, when you reach for things, try to think, okay, this one's better for me. I'll grab that one, and then still eat the foods that you love. One easy trade that you can make is drinking water, okay, as opposed to having sodas and juices or, things like that. Water is that's like the first step you can take. At first, it'll be weird, but you will get used to it. And eventually you'll just drink water. Like that'll just be your thing. Okay. So here are some very simple, healthy alternatives. Like if you're used to eating beefsteaks, or eating steak or beef, burgers, just sub in beef, period. You can switch that even for chicken will be a little healthier, especially chicken breast, and not frying it or slathering it in some like fat. Okay. Or even cereals. Like if you really like your cereal in the morning, there's nothing wrong with that, but maybe reach for a healthier version. Okay. Even like honey bunches of oats. Okay. It doesn't have to be so muesli, you don't want to reach for something you're not going to like because you're going to buy it and it's going to sit in that cabinet. And then when there's a food giveaway and you bring your box over the cabinet and what are you going to donate? You're going to reach for all that stuff that you bought that you never even wanted to eat. So don't buy stuff that you're not going to want to eat. But maybe instead of frosted cornflakes, you get regular. Maybe instead of regular mayo, you get light. Look, mayo's not good for you, but if you got to have it, try to have the better one. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So health requires healthy food. You can't get around it. You can't say like, I want to be healthy, but I want to eat junk, because they don't go together. You can't put junk in and get health out. Okay. You gotta, you're going to have to sacrifice some things, but it doesn't have to be all the time. My favorite, like when I first started eating healthier, I was like, okay, Monday to Friday, I'm going to try and eat as good as I can. And on the weekend, I would eat whatever I wanted. Now I'm doing a little better. I don't do it that way, but it works. It works. Okay. Anybody have any ideas of things you've done? Some people do meatless Mondays. There's a few things you can share with us if you want to. Okay, so enough about that. Let's have some fun and grow your own food. Okay. Now look, I'm not saying growing your own food is going to save you a bunch of money, and it definitely is not necessarily going to save you time, but there's a payoff in growing your own food. Okay. It can definitely be very rewarding. It can make you more adventurous with your vegetables. It'll help you find some new recipes. So there's a lot of positive to growing your own food. The odds that you're going to grow your own food and feed your whole family are very, very slim, especially living like in okay. But the more you do it, the better you'll get. And eventually you'll be able to have more products. Okay. So growing your own food it's about more than feeding yourself. It's definitely a stress relief, being out in the sun, working in the dirt. There's something about that. And I'm not like I want to be in the dirt kind of person. I'm not a camper. I have camped because I have kids. So, I feel like it's one of those things I should do with them, but it's not my preference. I'm more of a resort kind of girl. Okay. But, being out in the sun, working the ground and seeing a product come up that you have worked so hard for just naturally releases dopamine and it feels really good. It's a form of exercise. Which is another good thing for you. You can get out there and you're squatting, you're doing those squats and they're natural. I am sore the next day after I'm working out in my garden because you're constantly bending down and squatting. And I have a raised garden bed and I'm still sore. Okay. So, when you garden, you tend to think more about what you eat. So your diet's a little bit greener. It's good for your brain. You're more in tune with nature. So you're exposed to more bacteria, which sounds bad. You're like, wait, Miss B, I don't really want to be exposed to bacteria. That's what builds your immune system. Okay. So you kind of need to be exposed. Like that living in our house, like we just did for the last year and a half or so, that's not the best for our immune system. We need to get out there. We need to be exposed. Don't be crazy. Don't be licking the dirt or anything. But I just mean like you'll naturally get exposure. So here are some tips I have for you just to kind of get you started if you're interested. Start small. Do not go home and be like, Mom, Dad, I need this whole part of the yard because I'm about to feed us all. Okay. Don't get crazy with it. Okay. Because what'll happen is you'll get out there, it's back-breaking work, and then you're going to quit. You're going to give up. Okay. So start small. My recommendation is you start with a pot, like literally now. You can get a pot this weekend, okay? Start with a pot and decide what you want to plant. These are some really easy things to grow. Tomatoes, honestly, if you grow anything, cherry tomatoes. Ooh, I love me some cherry tomatoes. They will reward you like you've never seen before. And you'll feel so good. You'll walk up and eat a tomato right off the plant. And if you think like, no, I wouldn't do that because I got to wash everything. And nope, as soon as you see your baby, you can't wait to eat it. You should see at my house, we fight over like the strawberries. We'll have like 3 strawberries. There's 5 of us. We'll have 3 strawberries. Who's going to get the strawberry? Because we're all so excited. They'll be small too. And we're just so excited to get them. But tomatoes are awesome because they really are prolific. They grow in abundance. And cherry tomatoes are the best. Zucchinis are actually, if you're not used to eating zucchinis, zucchini is a great one to grow. They grow like crazy. You're going to be giving them away. They grow so much. And they don't require a lot of work. You want to start with a plant that does not require a lot of work because it's not your habit, okay? Peppers are good. Eggplants are good. If you're not used to eating eggplant, it could be a good way to try it, but I would hate for you to grow something that you don't like what it tastes like. But what happened to me is I just grow stuff. And then when I was coming in, I started looking for recipes. So that's kind of how I do it. Spinach is great. No, spinach is really easy to grow. You can grow it in a pot. It does not like the Palmdale heat. So if you're going to grow spinach, you're going to have to keep it where it gets sun, but something maybe should shade it. Like if you grow it next to a tomato plant, the tomato plant will kind of shade it a little bit because your spinach will get really tough if you grow it just in the Palmdale sun. Okay. What I do with spinach, if I'm growing, I only grow it in the spring because in the summer it's just like a losing battle. But if you pick it right away when it's a baby, then you'll be okay. Beans are good. Herbs are good, like basil, rosemary, cilantro. If you're not into herbs, I recommend trying one. Basil is the easiest one to try because basil has like a flavor I feel like everybody kind of likes. Not like cilantro because there's the people who are like anti-cilantro because of their genetics. But basil is an easy one. You make a killer pasta sauce with that or a pesto, something like that. Yeah, definitely in a greenhouse for sure. Your spinach would love that actually. So as long as it's getting sun, but your greenhouse will be having some light. So it should be good. And it'll help because it just doesn't like that direct sunlight. It'll get fibrous and you won't want to eat it. So these are some fun things. Green beans are a lot of fun to grow and they are very prolific. They grow in pots like this as well. And you don't have to do a lot of work. Honestly, you just need a decent soil. It doesn't have to be amazing, but it can't be that Palmdale ground. Don't just go outside and first of all, it's going to take you days to dig. And I don't know about your yard, but if I just take a shovel out to my backyard and hit that hard dirt, I'm going to quit right there. Like that's it. I'm done gardening. So I recommend pots because you don't have to dig. Okay. And our soil here is really hard and it lacks nutrients because we live in the desert. We can't be mad. It's a desert. We're in the Mojave Desert. Okay. So we can't be mad about that. But if you grow in a pot or eventually a raised garden bed, then you're good. You don't even have to buy anything. Like when I first started, I used an old drawer, like a drawer. I had this plastic kind of, my kids used to do arts and crafts and I had like these drawers and you pull them out and I just took one out and punched some holes in the bottom and put some soil in it. And that's how I started when I first started gardening. So you don't even have to purchase anything. You can repurpose things. Just make sure that nothing toxic is going to leak into your food. So if you have wood, something that's wood, you want to make sure it's not treated with chemicals that are going to leach into your food because that some of our wood, is pre-treated. So just be careful. But otherwise, you can use almost anything. You need sun, but hello, we got plenty of sun. You can grow year round in the Antelope Valley. Water, which normally I would be like, yeah, turn on the water, but we have a drought right now. So don't plant anything that's overly dependent on water, like watermelon. I'd avoid that. In fact, I just planted watermelon and cantaloupe during spring break. So now I'm kind of like, oh, we got these water restrictions, and I'm a biologist, so I feel like I need to follow them. I'm environmental. So now I'm like, how am I going to water my watermelon? Because they require a lot of water. And I planted a ton of strawberries, and they require water too. You need some seeds, which you can get anywhere. You can get really cheap at Walmart, $1.99, get a bag of seeds. You can try growing seeds from stuff that you buy in the store. If you buy organic, you can definitely grow those. If you don't buy organic, it's hit or miss, because some of our produce is sterile because they're hybrids. So you will plant them, but they won't grow anything. So there's a possibility of that. Don't try to plant your apple seeds, stuff like that. You'll buy a tree for that. Don't try and plant that kind of stuff. But tomatoes, my tomatoes be trying to sprout seeds if I don't use them fast enough. So, you can easily do that. You need lots of patience, because it's going to take those babies at least like 1 to 2 weeks before they start to really put up their shoots. And it's going to take them months before they give you any food. Okay. The one thing that you can plant if you don't have patience is radishes, because radishes, you will get edible radishes. They're done. From seed to finish is 4 to 6 weeks. So in 4 to 6 weeks, you'll have radishes you can pull out and enjoy. And I plant radishes every year, and I don't even like radishes that much, but I plant them just because they get my kids excited, and it's fun. We get to pull something pretty quick, and they run around. They're hilarious because they'll wash them off right there with the water hose and start eating them, and they're kind of spicy. And so they're just like, oh, we got our radishes. And then I could tell on their face they don't even like them, but they just keep eating them because they grew them. And when kids grow their own food, they eat it. When kids, like if you're like, oh, I'm not getting my kids to eat these vegetables, when they cook their own food, they eat it. Like I feed my kids all plant-based at home. They can eat whatever they want when they're out of the house, but at home we only eat plants. And everybody's always like, how do you get them to eat the food? I'm like, they help me cook it, they're going to eat it. So get them involved and they'll do it. And persistence, don't give up. Here are some other ones that are good in pots: pulled beans, lettuce, peppers, radishes, like I mentioned, spinach, peas, carrots. Carrots are okay. I don't grow carrots just because I'm too impatient, and I be trying to pick them up to see if they're ready. And once I pull it out, it's done. So I think it's ready, and I pick it up, and it's like this little skinny, looks like a braid almost, kind of a carrot, and I just blew it. So carrots, I think I'm a little too impatient for those. But you can grow almost anything in a pot. Okay, so I recommend starting with pots whenever you can. Okay, a few more tips, and then we're going to be wrapping it up here. Some things to pay attention to. Pay attention to your climate. It gets really hot here in the summer. You already know that because you live here. So whatever you plant, make sure it can tolerate the heat. Tomatoes tolerate heat very well. Zucchinis, cucumbers, things with big, wide leaves. I actually grow corn, and it generally tolerates the heat okay. But lettuces and herbs, things like that, they don't tolerate as much. So you have to be prepared to cover them, maybe plant them next to something big, or maybe where you can move it into the shade. Use mulch, because that'll save you with water. So mulch is basically anything that you use to cover your soil. So when you plant your plants, and after they come up, you put like little wood chips. There's rubber mulch, which I actually don't recommend because it's not good for the environment. But there's rubber mulch, there's wood chips, there's straw, there's hay, newspaper, cardboard. All of those things can work as mulch, and they're inexpensive. Okay, mulch is cheap. You can buy a whole bag of it for like $3-4. Know when to add fertilizers. You don't have to add fertilizers, but it's nice to give your plants a boost. It's like vitamins for your plant. So know when to add them and how much, because if you add too much, you can burn your plants or their roots, and then you'll be sad. Don't overwater, but that's kind of hard to do here in the Antelope Valley because it's so hot. Like, it's hard even this time of year with the wind. That's what mulch helps for, though. It keeps the water from evaporating from your soil. Share. This is the most fun part. Honestly, I think I garden mostly to give stuff away. I don't know. There's something about growing food and being like, who wants it? Who wants these cucumbers? You know, and it's just a cucumber, but you're so excited to go around the neighborhood giving it out. And plus that way it doesn't go bad, because, you know, we all know about, you know, if you keep your veggies too long, you know, they can go bad. And then be creative with the dishes you make. Make something good. Don't make your same old, same old. Don't fry that zucchini. Throw it on the grill. Make some, you know, make some pasta with it. You can make pasta noodles out of zucchini. That's not my favorite, to be honest, but I've done it a couple of times. Just do something different. You didn't buy it, so if you end up not liking it, it's like, oh well, do something different next time. Okay. All right, biggest takeaways from today. So I'm almost done. So and then if you guys want to talk about anything or ask questions, you can, or we'll end there. Love the body that you've been given. Remember, healthy comes in all shapes and sizes. It's not about if you are big or small, or if you have this roll here or stretch marks there, whatever. Love who you are. Love the body you've been given, because it's the only one you're ever going to get, okay? You're not going to get another one. You might get pieces here and there. They might give you a heart valve or give you another kidney, but all that is hard. Take care of what you have so it will last you as long as it can. Start slow by adding more fruits and vegetables to your diet. Don't leave here today and be like, I'm not eating any more animal products, or I'm not eating any more of this or that. You can do that. Actually, that's my personality. So it's funny that I tell you start slow, because that's not what I do or did. But I do think it's the best advice, because if you dive in head first, then all of a sudden you see something and you want it, and next thing you know, you're off the wagon. Okay, so start slow. Just do better. Just make better choices. Okay, try to have veggies with every meal, and try to make sure those veggies are not slathered in butter or cheese or ranch or some type of animal product. Okay. And then drink more water than anything else. So I'm not saying don't have soda. I'm not saying don't have juice or anything like that, but have water more often than not. Maybe with dinner, have water Monday through Friday, and maybe have soda on the weekends. Soda's expensive. So honestly, by doing that, you're going to save yourself some money anyway, okay? And you're going to feel better. Avoid red meats and processed meats as much as possible. I'm not saying don't go to the 4th of July barbecue. I'm just saying it's not a 4th of July barbecue every day. Okay, so definitely if you do anything, is this last one. Okay, if you do anything that I'm telling you today, avoid those, because that's what's really going to clog up those arteries and leave you at a risk for heart disease or cardiovascular disease later. Okay, limit your dairy. That's a hard one. Honestly, out of all the things I've done, that's the hardest one that I have trouble with, because dairy's in everything, you know, but limit it, because it really, if you want to know more about health, do some research on dairy. You'll be amazed, and you will. Dairy is almost worse than meats. Okay. Move your body, like be active, go outside, take walks in the afternoon, walk your dog, play with your kids, find a hobby that requires you to move, but don't sit. Just sit and sit and sit, and move while you can. Appreciate it, because you never know. There could be a time later in life where your body does not let you move the way you want. Okay, so work on that balance. Just appreciate it, because I tell you, I had a C-section 11 years ago, and it was rough. It was a bad one. It did not go as planned. It wasn't planned, first of all, and it didn't go well. But the reason I'm telling you is because that was about around the time when I realized I need to appreciate my health. And I knew I was going to get better, but while I was down, it was almost depressing. Like I probably was depressed. It was really bad. So not being able to move my body and feeling that constant pain really made me appreciate, and I made a mental note, like when I'm better, I'm going to move. I'm going to appreciate this. So keep it moving. Enjoy growing some of your own foods. Don't try to grow everything for your family, but enjoy growing some things. Have some fun with it, and it'll get bigger and bigger. Be careful. It's kind of an addictive thing once you start doing it. Avoid drastic changes, since they're not likely to last. And last but not least, Continue to educate yourself. Learn as much as you can about what your body prefers. Stay away from fad diets. This is not about be keto. This is not about be plant-based, be vegetarian, be this, be that, Atkins. What makes your body happy? What gives you energy? What gives you life? What makes you feel good? That's what you want to focus on. Because if you think about it, when we eat a lot of those like junk foods and fast foods, we do not feel good when we're done. Okay. We're like in the moment, our brain is like, give it to me. And afterwards, our body is like, what did we do? Okay. So those are the things that are the biggest takeaways from today. Fall in love with taking care of your body. Okay. Because it's the only one that you have. All right. All right. So that's it for my presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you don't, feel free to go or feel free to have comments, whatever you'd like. Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording too.
Well, I would just like to say thank you very much. This has probably been one of the better student workshops that we've done. It definitely had hit home with me in terms of my personal health journey and